are past, and we are here at Chattin. You know what? Thank you for tuning in tonight. We having a lot of fun. That's right. Oh, welcome to Chattin 88. 'Cause spending time with me. I just realized that I put the ending and the beginning together. You know what? It's comedy month, so who knows what's going to happen. Oh my goodness. Welcome to tonight's show, ladies and gentlemen. We have our special guest here tonight. Jason Allen is going to be joining us. He is a great comedian. We have met him from Eric Johnston, who was our guest at the beginning of Comedy Month, and he has really kind of introduced us to all these great comedians for this month. We had Michael Moses last week, and we have Jason tonight. I'm really excited to have this gentleman join us tonight. But before we do, what I'd like to do is, I got flustered with the new setup here with Facebook. I'm thinking we might have to address newer technology with some other things that we have going on. We're in our new studio here, which is very exciting. A new Studio C, and yes, C stands for Curtis. And we have a couple different locations. But again, COVID has been coming in and ripping things apart. And, well, no, COVID hasn't. The way we've been handling things has been ripping things apart. But I'm actually going to sing that again because I really don't feel complete without saying... Welcome to Chat Rate. Oh, every single week we have a... I said spending time with me. I said spending time with me. Like Jason Allen, ladies and gentlemen, is the best. Oh, yeah. Oh, you know what? He is waiting. We are behind schedule, so I'm going to let this gentleman in. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Mr. Jason Allen. He should be joining us here in a few seconds. Here he is. It says Katie Kuhlman. So what we can do is, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Katie, who is this lovely face right here.
Hey, how's it going?
How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you? My lovely wife,
you know
Katie.
what? We started late.
Oh, that's okay.
Yes.
I have nowhere to be.
No, you know what? It's interesting. I have nowhere to be other than here.
I have nothing
It's so
going
funny
on.
because I did a quick interview with one of our local newspapers here, and one of the questions that they asked me was, do you ever have any technical difficulties? And the first answer that came out of my mouth was absolutely. And lo and behold, we had one here tonight. Facebook has decided to integrate with Zoom in a different way now, and they've completely upgraded their interface. And I couldn't understand what was going on, and neither could any of our technicians. So needless to say, who cares? We're here. We've made it. Welcome to Chattin' 88s. What is up, my friend? You are in another part of the country as an artist trying to survive during this pandemic. You're in Ontario. You are in complete lockdown. You can't even go out and get toilet paper, not to say that there is any toilet paper around.
No, it's all Doug Ford took all of it. He's actually he built a barrier around himself out of toilet paper, and he's not letting any of his people have it. Yeah, we're in complete lockdown.
It's just a crap show over there, right?
Oh yeah. It's been tough, man. It's been tough. I might see you tomorrow because I might just come out to Red Deer and sleep under your piano or something.
Yeah, I can put a little mattress underneath here, and we'll give you. We got a mini fridge, we got a microwave, we got you covered. We got all the necessities you need.
much as my place has. So count me
And
in.
I have toilet paper as well, so we got you
Oh,
covered there.
perfect, perfect.
um, you know, it's tough right now during all these times for artists, and I know again another part of the conversation I had with our local here our uh, newspaper. We've had to create, and I say we because I speak for us artists here on Chattin 88s and everybody that we kind of interview and anybody else beyond that. We have to create our outcome, and something that it's been the topic of conversation, and it's been interesting seeing how all of us have been able to, rise above, if you will, and make sure that we don't go down into the dumps and end our and just kind of end it and say I'm throwing in the towel, I'm quitting, because we can't get in front of a live audience, and especially as a comedian. I'm sure you're not the first to say how difficult it's been, but what has it been like for
Yeah.
you not being in front of people, man?
It's been really hard, and it sucks because it's like you said, you don't want to give up because this is the only thing I'm good at. I've tried to work regular jobs, and I suck at them. I'm a horrible employee. I don't believe the customer is always right. I believe I'm always right. I'm not good in a regular workforce. I was good at telling jokes and talking about myself and complaining about myself in a funny way on stage. So yeah, it's been a little rough. Fingers crossed that things kind of get back to normal by the summer. At least maybe do some backyard shows. I was doing that last year with Eric Johnston and Michael Moses, who I know you've had on this show. Um, so I'm hoping to get back
Right.
to that at least by the summer, and still trying to write and think of stuff and trying to write stuff that isn't COVID related, but it's hard because it's all you hear about. Uh,
It's kind of inevitable when you're writing. What do you? Okay, so I noticed that in one of another interview that we kind of did a little bit of research on, creating your content. Are you? Do you like? Do you normally always sit down and write it out and figure that out? How important is that to you?
yeah, I'm pretty neurotic, so for me, I am very much pen to paper. I do like admire comics who are like, oh, I just have an idea and I'll let it flow on stage and remember the good parts and cut out the bad. I admire that kind of like freeness that they have. I'm not really like that. I like having a bit more structure. And then maybe if I'm feeling really comfortable, I might ad lib a bit once I already have like the real bones of the joke and build off it a bit. But most of the time, I am like sitting at a desk actually writing. So
Right.
that just what works for me.
Percentage wise, how many? Because I, I know, and you might even have more time on your hands right now to be doing all that. You probably have pages and pages and pages that you've been writing right now because we can't get out and do shows. And I probably, let me just ask: are you doing any shows online on the Zoom or any other
I
streaming?
have done some Zoom shows. Some have been really fun and they've been really good, and I don't mind it. You know what I mean? I'm always I'm an in person kind of person. I am a people person. I like hanging out and meeting new people and traveling, and that's like a beautiful thing about stand up generally. So it's sometimes a little harder to connect with people through the Zoom shows, but I have done them and I'll do them again if it comes to it, you know?
Yeah. So when you're writing, then are you to yourself when you go up on stage?
Sorry?
Do you write like when you're writing out your shtick and you're on your and all that repertoire? Are you writing as a character to create like another persona, or are
Um,
you just writing and then delivering it as yourself?
I try to speak as myself as much as possible. Obviously, you have to exaggerate a bit, or I could be talking about something that annoyed me in the moment, but now it's been like a few months later and the joke is polished, and I still have to remember to act annoyed while I'm talking about that certain thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um,
Totally.
but I'd say generally, no, I'm not a character. I talk about my life. I talk about people in my family, my wife. I name drop. I do the whole thing. It's very much a picture of myself, so, and that's, yeah, that works for me as a character. So,
Yeah, so you normally make fun of yourself when you go up on stage, and then people can just relate to that because they feel like they're in the same boat as you are?
yeah, and like, that's like, that wasn't even a comedy thing. That's just something that I've always done, is like made fun of myself to kind of like break the ice or let people know I don't take myself too seriously or anything like that, I guess. Um, I don't really respect coolness. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't like people who are cool or take themselves seriously. So if I
It's a
see a
waste
guy,
of time. It's a waste of time, I think.
yes, yes. If anything, people that I admire the most are people that have like no style or no, like, they don't seem to care or be worried about what's going on. I really like, I'm drawn to people that are kind of like they're always in their own world, and once in a while they let you in. Those are like my closest friends. Are
I can
people
see
like
why
that?
Eric is right on the top of the list.
Oh yes, he's very much, Eric is Eric, no matter what. And we are polar opposites in a lot of ways, but that is one thing that I like about him, is that he looks like he got bit by a radioactive vape pen, but he doesn't let it slow him down. You know what I mean? So
And a tanned Italian at that. Um, what
fake Italian. That's
fake tan? Right? Yeah, there you go.
like
Fake tan.
Eric
Um,
Johnston.
Speaking of Eric, let's talk about the community where you're from. Let's talk about the comedy family, if you will. You guys all
Sure.
seem to be
Yeah.
pretty tight. What's that like? Are you always scratching each other's backs, giving each other's gigs, helping each other out, that sort of thing? What's that like?
Hamilton's, yeah, a great scene, and generally, I'd say in comedy, like a lot of work you get is it's comics helping comics. Yeah, that's a really, like, that's another thing that really grosses me out, is like over competitiveness in an industry that is tough enough, which is why I've been very lucky to kind of like, um I don't know, kind of just mesh with a lot of comics that are really cool, that like they're not hoarding their stuff and I'm not hoarding my stuff, and I'm happy to help people out, and people have been happy to help me out, and I've and you remember the guys that helped you out, the men and women that helped you out early on in your career. You always remember them, and you
I
try to
think
pay
that's
that
just
forward, and you try to give stuff back to them as well. So
Yeah, and I think that's across the board in the performing arts. I mean, there's that old saying, don't burn a bridge, etc., etc., and that very much I do believe is a thing. Again, I think that pertains to those people who are not giving. Those are the ones who give a shit too much, maybe. But I think that's safe to say, even in performing arts, all the art forms. I know, even as artists, if we're working with a musician, you want to help that artist out, give them, hey, this bass player, I know this guy, he can play for you. Anytime, and I've been
yeah,
in a pinch that I needed a drummer, or I've gone through so many drummers, and I'm finally glad that I have my own. But it's always, I've never known how. I'm always reminded how close we are as a community in the arts. Even from my neck of the woods, I'm not a comedian, but I can certainly say that if I ever needed a comedian, I know who to turn to. You know what I mean?
sure, yeah.
It's eclectic, and it's, in that case, it's also connected, and the camaraderie extends over. How much of your art, or how much do you write that you throw out? What's the percentage of all the crap that you throw out
Oh,
that's no good?
like most of it. Like, yeah, people sometimes are like, sometimes people are very nice, like after a show, and they're very complimentary, and they're like, "You're so funny," or you're like, or like, I'll talk about my wife on stage a little bit, Katie, whose name might still be on the screen, or at least was at the beginning. And
Yes.
they're like, oh, she must laugh all the time. I'm like, no, most of the time she does not laugh. And then I get her once in a while. Like if you read through my notebooks, you wouldn't think I was funny. You'd think I was insane. You know what I mean?
Is it
I
true?
think,
Is it true that comedians hide some? I don't know. I've heard this before. Don't quote me on it. But is it true that comedians go people? Comedians go lean towards the comedy side of things because they're hiding other inner turmoils and other parts. I mean, we look at Robin Williams, who had some, had clearly issues that nobody really knew about or he hid, and we lost him and stuff,
yeah,
and that.
yeah.
So, what's your take on that?
Um, I don't know. It's so hard, and I guess it would vary from person to person. Because sometimes I hear this idea of like, oh, the comic, you must be this dark, like twisted creature and stuff like that. But I've met comics that are very funny and very talented that almost feel bad that they didn't come from a messed up family and then don't feel like they're a real comic. And I'm like, if you're funny and you're going up there and you're doing it and you're making people laugh, you're a real comic. So, yeah, some people do have childhood trauma or kind of like darker thoughts or whatever else, but I'd say that's in any walk of life. I don't think that
I agree.
defines
I
you
agree.
as an artist, right? And as far as like, it's very sad what happened to Robin Williams, and it's sad when that happens to anybody. You know what I mean? Like, and suicide is a very serious thing, and not to get too deep here, but I think that we could find examples of lots of different people from lots of different fields that have committed suicide. So we just happen to know about Robin Williams because he's famous, right? So I think
Yeah, and
really
I
we're
think,
all
and,
hiding a
and
bit of
again,
something.
I'm not, and I think what we need to focus on is keeping that camaraderie and the family, and making sure that we're there
Yeah,
to support each other, no matter what genre, arts, whatever it may be. We just are there, and it's nice to see that you have some close, good buddies, that are
absolutely.
supportive and,
Yeah.
and keep you going. What is the craziest moment on stage? From one of our viewers has asked, what is the most embarrassing or craziest moment on stage where you just were like, screw this, I have nothing, like nobody laughed, crickets or whatever, or anything like that.
Okay. I was like a few years in, and there's this place called Comedy Club 54. It used to be on TV in
Yes,
Ontario, and I remember like watching it as a kid on TV and thought it was
me too,
like
me too.
this is pretty cool when I got it. You know what I mean? And it's no shame on. I'm not trying to shame Comedy Club 54, but it's no longer on television. And it turned out to be a much rougher gig than I had thought it was gonna be. The place in general has gotten a lot like rowdier since no longer being on TV. And a week before the gig, I was on my way to another gig, slipped on a patch of ice, and broke my arm. So I'm in a sling. This is like my first time doing Club 54, and again, I'm so naive. I think that this is like gonna be a big deal, like a turning point or something like that.
Biggest
The
moment in your life. You're at this
big
club. It is it.
so
You're in.
far, so far, biggest thing in my small pea brain. I think that this is a huge opportunity. And I get up there. The place is packed, but they are for sure not there for comedy. They are for sure there to dance as soon as comedy's over. Because as soon as comedy's over at Club 54, it turns into a very greasy, uh, cougar-ridden dance club. It is a nightmare. I couldn't have got out of there faster if I tried. But essentially, I was surrounded. I couldn't take the mic out of this stand because I only have the one arm, and there are some things I try to sell with my one good hand. There's people literally sitting behind me having full blown conversations, probably about stabbing me in the parking lot. Uh, and it was just completely chaotic. And I never have felt so vulnerable because even then, I don't want to go at a heckler when I have one good arm at my disposal. So I just kind of ate it for like half an hour. And
Oh, the longest half
regretted.
an hour of your life must have been
Oh,
torture.
definitely. So
How long is normally a set? Like when you go up and you do a set, what is it like? 3
well, it
minutes
can
or
vary. It can vary so much, right? Because there's so many like quick spots that you'll do where you're just working stuff out, where it's like 5 to 7 minutes long. And once you've been doing comedy for years, that just flies by. It's so quick. You can do like 4 of those in a night sometimes, depending on how hard you're working and what cities you're running to and stuff like that. So you can do those spots all the time through the week. And then an average like middle spot is probably like anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. And then
that's a
emceeing is
lot of
any
content. That's a lot
yeah.
of repertoire to know.
So yeah, you get your time down, and then you'll have that kind of set, or you'll have your headlining set, which is anywhere from like 45 minutes to an hour. Some clubs want a little less. Some clubs maybe it's 40, but generally I'd say a headliner is doing 45 to an hour. There's some clubs that you can do where they want you to do an hour and a half.
Wow.
Or you'll do a weekend somewhere and somebody's doing so bad they get fired and you have to do their time too.
So don't mess that up.
Insane. So yeah.
What's the biggest gig you've done since? Like what's the claim to fame for you right now?
Oh, I've done a lot of different things that have been really cool and stuff like that. I actually just did the Edmonton Comedy Festival this past year, 2020, which was a blast. I've also opened for Tom Segura.
That's
Which
really
was
cool.
a lot of fun.
Tell us like where was that with Tom?
That was in London, where I'm originally from.
London, Ontario, right?
London, Ontario, yeah, London, Ontario, the classy London, as I like to call it.
Or the London that doesn't give a crap.
London, the London that got lost along the way.
The London that got lost. That sounds like a great. I love it.
It's the book of our city. It's the tale. But yeah, I was so new when I got that show with Tom too. I was such a baby in comedy. I remember telling him how many sets I had done, and it was in London, Ontario. So I hadn't done a ton of shows. Like you don't get a lot of stage time in a city as small as London. So I literally told him when I met him, I'm like, yeah, I'm a little nervous and stuff like that. And I'm like shaking and stuff. I'm like, it's like my 23rd set. And he's like, well, you're still keeping count, right? I'm like, it's going to be good, though. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. And I keep saying that. And he goes, yeah, I know. I go, I think I'm telling myself more than I'm telling you. And the MC was up. We were down in the basement. And the crowd, like, roared at, like, one of his jokes or something. Like, it really popped. And he goes, you hear that? And he goes, these guys are here for us, man. He's like, just go out and have fun. And he kind of gave me a fist bump. And it kind of relieved some of that anxiety just because he was like just acting so cool. And I remember going up there and having a great set. And when I was leaving, I ended up passing him. And he gave me a fist bump. And he went, hey, 23 in the bag, man. And I was like, that's really cool. You know what I mean?
That is such a cool story. 23 in the bag.
Really cool. And I'm sure he's forgotten all about that and me, but I'll always remember that. And whenever I see him doing something, I'm like, he's generally a cool guy as far as I'm concerned. Some people, they have an act or they seem nice, and then you meet him and you're like, oh, you're different than you act. Tom Segura is like a solid dude, and I'll always believe that.
On stage to off stage, the same guy, genuine across.
Genuine guy, yeah.
If you write a book, if you write an autobiography, or if somebody writes a biography, or you do, your book should be called 23 in the Bag.
23, that's a great title. I like that, yeah. But if it had my picture on it, people would think that I was talking about murder victims. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean...
23 in the bag.
Okay, so. What's your... I've read somewhere that you tell us about your. I'll use the word infatuation with one-liners.
Oh well, that's early. That was early on in comedy. I was a huge fan of
that was the first 23, right?
The first 23, I was like the one-liner guy. I definitely talk a lot more about myself now, and it's kind of more of who I am and less of a character. But when I first like got into comedy and was like really following it, like guys like Mitch Hedberg, but even more so than Mitch Hedberg, I'd say Stephen Wright was like my absolute idol, and I just thought he was such a genius. And the idea of like a one-liner that is so smart that there's almost like a delay before they laugh was such a cool idea to me. And you'd see that in Stephen Wright's act a lot, that he was just so much smarter than the audience that he'd have to talk slower to kind of give them a second to catch up.
I love that.
His way of thinking. If you don't know who Stephen Wright is, he's probably most famous now for being Couch Guy in the movie Half Baked.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Unfortunately, because he's such a great comic, but that's what he's mostly known for now, I think, for younger generations, anyways. But such a huge fan of Stephen Wright and just that style. And he was a huge inspiration at the beginning. When you're new, you kind of mimic guys that that you like, and I've kind of gotten out of that, and I'm doing my own thing now. But yeah, early on, I was doing my best Stephen Wright impression on stage for a
You
couple
know,
years.
we're allowed to have influence, and we're allowed to take from. I mean, that's art. We learn from the greats, and we learn from those who have been before us, and we take that, and then we adapt it to our own, and we create, and then somebody will take from us, and somebody will take from you eventually.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Old time's sake, Jason. Give us a 1 to 23 couple of
Oh,
one-liners. Do you have
a
any?
one-liner?
Yeah, give us a
A
couple.
one. Okay, here's one for you because you're a musician. I wonder if electric fences ever think of wooden fences as acoustic fences.
That is so dumb.
Isn't that dumb? Yeah,
Oh my god. Okay, that's good. Okay. Keep going. We got.
right?
Let's do another one.
I, I wonder if raisins ever tell grapes to respect their elders.
Wait. Oh my god. You got to have a
See?
book of these. There's got to
It
be
took me a
somewhere we can
second.
read, right?
I should release a book of one-liners or like maybe a small album or something.
It's like the Uncle John's book that you open up and you read in the bathroom of one-liners.
Sure, I'm fine
23 in
with
the
that.
Bag by Jason Allen.
There you
All one
go.
line. 23 years of one-liners.
I like that. I'll start working on that. The good
Great.
thing
I'll
about
take
one-liners,
20%.
yeah, yeah, I'll cut you in. Uh, the good thing about one-liners too is like life doesn't really need to be happening. You can write about any random thing with a one-liner. You know what I mean?
This is true. What's the importance of a? Do you think a one-liner can take? So you're bombing a joke. You're telling this joke about yourself. Do you think a one-liner is used to kind of take yourself out of the ditch if you need to?
I think you can have some that are kind of like quick or yeah, certain things that will save you. I don't think that the one-liners that I used to do because they were just so surreal and not about me at all. They were very much about random things like fences. You know, so I don't think that me talking about a personal thing in my life and trying to make it funny and then stopping and being like, I wonder if flies think that dragonflies are just a myth. You know, that's not going to help me.
Okay, let's talk about delivery. You can have anything and you can deliver it poorly, and it could be a funny joke, and delivery can ruin it, right?
Oh, definitely, for sure. You got to
Talk
like,
about delivery. How important is delivery? What's the method? What's the secret to the proper delivery of a joke?
honestly, I think it's just like practice makes perfect. And the more you get up there, when I was like new, like brand new, I would physically shake on stage. Luckily, like I feel like people liked my writing enough that it kind of carried me in the beginning, and I finally snapped out of like the freakish nerves and got better at delivery and just being comfortable. But a big part of delivery for me, anyways, was just doing it in front of audiences over and over again. I think that when comedy does come back, you're going to see a lot of comics having to knock that rust off and get used to like getting those chops down again and getting their delivery back.
Well, I think that if I may add to that, I mean, I think as as me as a performing artist as well, because I mean, I've been doing live streams playing with the band, but having an audience in front of you, which is going to be different, and you could do the same show 3 nights in a row, and every show can be different because you never know what your audience is going to be like, how their
Definitely.
day has been, and how they're going to
Yeah.
react to the joke. So it
And yeah,
is.
that's very true. And it's like you feed off different energies from different audiences too, right? And I
Yeah.
definitely had comics or friends be like, I never heard you kind of tell the joke that way, or you look different this time telling it. And it's like, it could have just been a different vibe in the room, good or bad sometimes, right? So that is
It
part of the like excitement of doing it too.
And I'm looking forward to doing it again. Like it's going to be like a rebirth. The minute that we can, this world is. I've said it. I've heard a lot of people say it, and I'm not the first to coin it. But we are going to be like the Roaring Twenties again when we open up and we can do live shows. And there's like, I get goosebumps just thinking about being able to perform in front of people again and having their reaction because they're going to go ape crazy and they are just they're going to be loving it, and it's going to be hard to take the artist off the stage. The show is going to have to close down and the artist is still going to be performing because security is going to be telling everybody to have to get out. What's it going to be like for you? What are you looking forward to the most when we can get back into doing being with family and love and in front of an audience again?
Honestly, just the grind, the day to day. I love working on something day after day and seeing results, and I like the idea of like chipping away at something. There's something exciting about that to me. So honestly, it's not even about like for me. It's not about getting back and being like I'm gonna do the biggest show in the biggest place and everybody's gonna love me. It's really about like I'm excited about being able to hit all these different kinds of shows and building new jokes again and seeing what works again and kind of like and building that muscle again, because that's the hardest part about like not doing it in front of people. You can write all day, but at the end of the day the audience tells you what's good and what's not good, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's I agree with one of the things. I don't get me wrong. I enjoy performing, and I love having that energy with the audience and connecting with them. But I really think that the post mortem and the going back to the drawing board afterwards and going what worked, what didn't work, what can be better. That's the
Yeah.
fun part. That's the education part, and that's the part that I like to
Yeah.
eat up as well. I agree with
Yeah.
you.
So yeah, that's what I like the most anyways. I like the challenge. So
Speaking of challenge, it's been a bit of a challenge, like we said during all this crazy time right now in the pandemic with as artists. It has been a great opportunity to create Chattin 88s and allow and bring the opportunity to connect with each other via virtually and through the internet. And we could sit and chat for hours on end because I'm really enjoying having this conversation with you and getting to know you more. And I'm pretty sure that I'll reach out and we'll keep in touch. But
yeah, that'd
as
be great.
challenging as it may be, Jason, what is some advice that you could offer to anybody that is wanting to step into the area of being a comedian and start it as a career?
Yeah. I don't know if this is good advice or bad advice, but you kind of have to go all in. You kind of have to figure out a way, and I know it's hard right now to do that, but hopefully we get past this, and they're going to keep vaccinating people, and we're going to be able to move past this, and that's the hope for all of us. And let's say in a perfect world, that is what happens, and the world opens back up, and we can think of things as they were in 2019, then my advice would be that you have to kind of go all in. I've walked away from jobs that wouldn't give me weekends off to pursue this because I knew I wanted to do it um, for a living one day, and now I am to the point where I was doing it for a living, and I will be back to that point when when things open back up again. So my biggest advice is that it's kind of all or nothing. You gotta like really go for it. I know comics that lived in Canada that uprooted their whole life and are living in New York now and sleeping on futons, or they're in LA and they're getting by there, but they're doing what they had to do to kind of make it work for them. I'm not going to explain to anybody how to write a joke or how to, get on stage for the first time. Anybody can figure that stuff out their own way. But the one thing I'd say is that you just don't put it off. Don't go like, well, I'll get there eventually. Go and try to do it now, because it might get, I don't know. I'm kind of
No,
rambling
I
now.
agree. It's the biggest word that as artists we it's a big word to swallow, and until we can realize we're either, and I've said this and I'll say it a million times, it's either a hobby or it's a business. And
Yeah,
and the word is sacrifice, and that is one of that is, if not the biggest
that's
word
it.
to swallow as an artist, and go, like you said, I'll quit my job. You're not giving me that off, so I can go do a show for 1/10 of the price that you're going to pay me. But
Yeah,
what makes
yeah.
me happier at the end of the day?
That's it. That's it.
Sleeping on a futon
Yeah.
and eating Ichiban and performing in front of an audience making $5, or building a house making $20 an hour. But here I am bitching that
Right.
my hands are sore and everything. So sacrifice
Yeah.
is the word, and you're right. I thank you so much for that. We got to hear it from all ends of the spectrum, and you are a great man for sacrificing. So from me to you, thank you for sacrificing your
Oh.
life to be a comedian.
Anytime. Anytime.
Anytime. Listen, I'm going to hold you to it. 23 in the bag, all the one-liner jokes that we can
I
read. I
like
want
that.
it in the
Yeah.
next. I want it in every bathroom stall in a mall somewhere where people can. Maybe
Not a
not a mall.
problem.
That would be
Everyone in
everybody's
Red Deer
toes.
anyway. Yeah. Sounds good.
Jason, you rock. Thank you, buddy.
Oh, thank you, man.
Before we go, where can we find you on social media? Where can we
Right,
follow
yes.
you?
You can find me at Jason A Comedy on Instagram and Sonic and Tales on Twitter. And then you can also check out my podcast with my co-host AJ Bate. It's called In Search of Zen, and you can find us on Instagram at In Search of Zen Podcast.
In
Uh,
search of Zen, like as
yeah,
in Zen?
as in Zen. Yeah.
Oh, are you namaste?
Yes, yes. I'm trying to get there, AJ and I are kind of angrier comics. Not so much like my act, but my vibe. Sometimes I say. So our podcast is about us trying to like talk each other off the ledge, essentially, and I think we give each other some good advice and hoping to pass on good advice to our listeners too. So yeah, it's called In Search of Zen, and it's In Search of Zen podcast on Instagram.
Go to Chattin 88's Facebook, send us a message with the links, and we'll make sure that we share it on our
Oh,
page and get
dude,
it.
that would be great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just share us the links on a message, and then we'll make sure that we share them on our page and spread the love, brother.
beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll let you bow out, and keep it real and keep the one-liners, man. They're
All
great.
right, thanks, man.
Have
All
a
right,
great
have a
night.
good one. Thanks.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is our guest for tonight, Jason Allen. He's still here.
All right, I'll leave. I'm going. All right.
I'm going. No, that was great. That was comedy at its finest.
All right, see you guys.
Have a great night.
You too.
Oh my goodness. If you're just tuning in right now, we just had our guest, Jason Allen. He is from Eastern Canada. What a great guy. I really enjoyed that conversation with him. And you know what? Across the board, as we are in season 2, and this is show 32 tonight, we're super excited to keep on going. And we have lots in store for you. So please make sure that you are following us. But I gotta say, not just tonight did I enjoy speaking with Jason. I've had such an education learning so much from so many different artists, so many different Canadian artists. I'm proud to say that Chattin 88 has expanded because of the artists that we have interviewed. They have given so much to us, and I hope we've given a lot to them as well. Big shout out to our volunteers and all the volunteers that we have in the community and across the country and around the world. National Volunteer Week. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for being a part of our journey, and thank you to our viewers. Viewers like you. You have proven to be loyal, and we appreciate you. So thank you so much. And you know what? Also this. Thank you for tuning in tonight. We had a lot of fun. That's right. Every single week we have a guest. Oh, spending time with me. Spending time with me. Spending time with me is the best. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a fabulous evening, and I will see you next week at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time right here on Chattin 88's live on Facebook.